Awesome. So it's really fun when you introduce me because I hear all of those things that I've done, but it's kind of surreal. You know, you hear all of it, and if you had told me, like, 2 years ago or 3 years ago that I would have done all those things, I would have been happily surprised. So it's really fun to look at what you can do in a short amount of time. So I was asked to speak on my top 3 ways to diffuse discrimination. And I thought that was a really interesting topic because we kind of look at discrimination in a way that we kind of preemptively think, like, I'm sure I'm going to be discriminated against in my lifetime, right? As a woman, or as, in your case, if you're from a different culture, different ethnicity, different whatever, in some way or another, you're kind of preemptively already preparing for that. Am I right? But by a show of hands, how many of you have already dealt with discrimination in one form or another? Right? In one form or another. Or in some way in your mind, how many of you already think, like, in some time in my career, I'm sure I'm going to be faced with discrimination, right? Well, I'm here to tell you, I guarantee it will happen. I guarantee in some way, at some point, it will happen to you. So how do we deal with that? First, I want to ask you a question. I want you to think about this. Who do I want to be? Ask yourself that question. Who do I want to be? That's different for all of you. Who does the world perceive me as? And how do I envision my future self? Right? So, who do you want to be? How does the world perceive you? And how do you envision your future self? And how in the world does any of that have anything to do with discrimination? Well, I want you to take a look at this. What do you see? I like this right here where it says, what do you see? Right? Do you see the economist? Do you see the trafficking victim? Or do you see the immigrant? Or maybe in your mind you could possibly see all 3. But I thought this was interesting. What do you see now? If you look back, they're very similar. What's the difference? One's holding school books, right? And so immediately the perception is that she's the student, right? Or maybe she's some professional. We see them differently, right? What about this? I love this one. Model, student, gang leader. Right? My husband grew up in LA, so I mean there's all kinds of, I mean you never know, right? And it's interesting how in our mind it's like, as soon as the word is put there, you're like, oh, we convince ourselves, yeah, right? Like maybe that kid could be a gang leader, right? As soon as the word is put there, you think it. Now look at this. Well, if we put the words there, right, what do we think? Okay, what about this? The beautician, the indigenous person, or a teacher? What do you see? And how about now? That same beautiful girl, what is the difference? What about this? Drug dealer, nurse, athlete. But honestly, what about that? I could see him as a dancer at PCC. I mean, you look at this and think about that for a minute, and then look at that. Change the outfit, change the wording. What do you see? Professor, refugee, fundamentalist. What do you see now? Completely different. But what changed? It wasn't the person, it wasn't the picture of the person, it was your perception. It was from within. It was you. Your perception changed because of either them carrying a book or wearing a cap or standing behind a temple or the clothing they were wearing. That is what changed. It was not from the person from within. The interesting thing is that if I go back through these pictures, do you know where I got all these pictures from? They're all students here at BYU Hawaii. All of these right here, look at that. These are students or professors. That was actually a professor. But you look at that and you realize that we're all human. Nothing changed. I asked you to look for the differences. That's the only thing that changed. If I ask you to look for the similarities, we're all the same. We're all human. And even deeper than us being all human is the reality that we're all children of God. So nothing changed except for your perception. So when you think about discrimination, the reality and the sad reality is that it comes from within. And the only way to heal discrimination is to heal yourself first. Because it comes from within you, and then you can change the world. So the number one way, heal from within. And I know you're probably thinking, no, that's not the answer because I'm facing discrimination. How do I deal with it when I'm in the workplace and I'm facing it and I want that promotion and they don't give it to me because I'm a woman? This is a true story. I went up for a job and I was offered the job of, I don't even know if I told my husband this, probably just to protect him from knowing the sad realities that I face. But I was going up for a job and the CEO said to me, and I was going to be chief creative officer at this really amazing company. And after the interview process, he said, I don't think that this is going to work. And I'm thinking, what? Like, I'm like, I'm perfect for this job. He's like, you're too pretty to work here. You're too pretty. This won't work. It's affecting the people in the company. Now I'm too pretty? But that's a discrimination. Not only is it sexual harassment, but it's discrimination against me as a woman. And I found it extremely offensive. Now I could be really mad and I could fight it and I could get angry and I could say all kinds of things. Instead it was, okay, that's fine. But you know what's going to happen? That company's not going to grow. And they're not going to thrive. And they're not going to be the people that they need to be. And that's okay. Because I know that I'm okay. And the company that I want to work with would never say that to me. And that's okay too. But the real problem is, and I told this to the CEO, I said the real problem is that you think that. That's the real problem. I said, I think you should get some CEO coaching. And you can hire me to do that. And the real problem is that we should never be thinking that about people. So the healing comes from within. So how do we do that? What does it mean, right, to heal from within? So if you focus on all the differences that we have, that's all you're going to find. So whatever you focus on, this is a universal principle, whatever your focus is on, you will find more of. Wherever your energy flows, that is what you will constantly be flowing into, right? And so if you see the world as someone with differences, you will constantly be finding those differences. Okay? It starts with what you believe. So if you change your environment, you change the perception. So everyone will start at some time in their life experience discrimination. But I want you, instead of turning that into anger or frustration or a lawsuit in that case, I want you to turn it into power. And then I want you to do something even crazier. I want you to empower the person who's discriminating against you. Think about that. Think about what kind of world we live in if we no longer hate the person that we are being hurt by, and instead we empower them to be better people. Right? So how do we do that? Change always begins somewhere. So where do you want to go? So I want you to set the trajectory and then start taking steps. The first way I found myself doing that is I have allowed myself to dream. I have allowed myself to dream about a future and a world that I want to live in, where I feel empowered, where everyone feels empowered to love others equally the same. But that takes confidence, right? How many of you walk into every room and feel really confident? Nobody's raising their hand. Because at some point, you have to really work for that confidence. That's a daily thing. That's a daily wake up and say, yeah, yes, today's the day. Because there are some days you're like, no, today is not the day, right? But it starts from within. So be brave enough to heal yourself even when it hurts. Because I will tell you, the real heroes that shine are the ones who heal themselves and then show the world how to do that same thing. Those are the heroes. They're healing the world because they've already experienced it. And discrimination is pain. It's somebody's pain they're projecting on you. That's all it is. And once you see that, you can actually empower that person to change, and you can love them in spite. So, number 2, it's already inside you. So, a way to diffuse discrimination? Well, it's already inside of you. The way is already in you. You already know the way. You just have to trust it. Okay? So the ability to be seen and see the truth is when you do not allow another person's perception of you deter you from the life you were meant to live. I'm going to repeat that again. The ability to see and to be seen and to see truth lies in your ability not to allow another person's perception of you deter you from living the life you were meant to live. What does that mean in simple terms? Don't give a crap what other people think about you. It's just that simple. Know who you are and stick on that path. Do not allow another person's voice to deter you from sharing yours. Have you ever wanted to say something really bad and then everybody else was talking and you were like, oh, no, okay, fine, I won't say it, like, fine. And then you leave and you're like, oh, I really wish I had said that. I really wish I had shared my opinion. I wish that I was brave enough. Don't allow other people's voice to deter you from sharing your own, or prevent you from sharing your own, or prevent you from finding your own, right? Do not allow another person to stand in the way of you living your dreams. Rid yourself of people that are toxic. Do not give them that power. You were given a birthright from God, and that is a universal right. And that means that when you, and I love the way my husband said this earlier, that means that when you poke the universe bends. That means you have the right and the ability to make change. You literally can change the world. That is a concept that I want you to really take from deep within. Because the only way to alter discrimination is for it not to exist any longer. How does it not exist any longer? We don't allow it. We see everybody as equals. We see everyone with love. There is no differences among us because we're not looking for the differences. We're looking for the similarities. Do you remember when I showed you all those pictures? All we were looking for is what is different about them. How can we place them in that category? But if you're not looking for those things, and you're looking for the similarities, and you're looking for the light and the love within a person, it's a lot easier to see the similarities between the fact that we're all children of God. There is really no difference. Okay, so your heritage from God breaks the bands of discrimination. Number 3, I want you to create the world you want to see. This is your responsibility. My responsibility is to deal with discrimination in the way that I will deal with it. But your responsibility is to deal with it in your way. But together, collectively, we can actually exterminate it. That's a collective choice. That's a collective voice. No longer will we put up with that. Because it's not going to be out of anger that we don't do it. It's going to be out of love. The only way to change anything is actually through love. So I want you to create the world you want to see. Now I'm going to show you pictures of people, and I want you to think about them. And when you think about these people, call out. I want all of you to actually call out what you see, okay? So before you thought it, but this time actually say the words. The first word you think, say it out. Ready? Keep talking. She's so many things. Right. Mother Teresa. Healer. Saint. Was literally given sainthood. Right? Mother Teresa. But you don't see all of those other things. You see Mother Teresa. Okay, what about this? What do you see? Right, Gandhi, but what do you see? Peace. Huh? Courage. A fierce leader. Spoken. He spoke the truth. Right? What do you see? Right? Call it out. So you have to use your voice. Call it out. What do you see? Martin Luther King Jr., what do you see? A fighter, right? A fighter for change. Stoic. What was that? Activist. Powerhouse. That's right. Nobody said black man. Because we don't see that. Because we see love, right? Because we've chosen to see something different. We see somebody who loved everybody equal. We see somebody who lived the dream. We see somebody who knew that they could change the world, and they were called of God to do it. Now, what does that mean for you? How many of you feel called of God to change the world? I hope all of you. I hope every single one of you raises your hand and says, I feel called of God to change the world. In whatever island I'm from whatever country I'm from whatever race I'm from whatever ethnicity, from whatever gender, from whatever bias, from whatever community, from whatever career, it doesn't matter. I hope that you feel called to change the world. Because let me tell you, whether you like it or not, you're going to change the world for somebody. And even if that somebody's just yourself, that's your world. And changing the world can mean for your children. It can mean for your spouse. It can mean from your family. It can mean for your community. It can mean for a company that you either work for or that you grow and you're an entrepreneur. It can mean for women. It can mean for your ethnicity. It can mean for your race, your religion. It doesn't matter how big or how small. Each of us is called to change the world in some way or another. Your opportunity is to now find out in which way, right? Harriet Tubman. I love her. I love her. What do you see when you look at this woman? Courage. What was? Brave. What else? Tenacious. Ooh, that's a good word. Tenacious. What else?
She's a leader, but also followers, especially followers of the Spirit.
Right. She led others, but by following the Spirit. Exactly. What else do you see? Because to me, I see a woman who fought against extreme circumstances, the most extreme. The extreme of being told you have no rights. Go ahead.
By the way, who is she?
That's Harriet Tubman.
What did she do?
Okay, so when in the United States, when black people were slaves, she actually went in and she started the Underground Railroad she participated in the Underground Railroad, and they would go back. So she was freed in New York. She escaped into New York, and it was New York, right? And she got into New York, and that was the only place right then where black people could be free. And she would go back into the parts where they were slaves, and she would basically rescue them and take them back across the border into New York to let them be free. And I think overall, how many did she free, Chris? 77? I thought it was more than that. Maybe that's just because you love that number. She freed a lot of people who were in slavery. So she freed the slaves. And for the United States, that was a big deal. Because at that time, not only was she a woman, but she was an enslaved woman who then went back into those areas. So she risked her life to free others. Right? And so you may not be asked to do something that extreme, or you may in your lifetime. We don't know what will happen. But the point is, she was able and willing to do what the Lord asked her to do. Right? She fought against discrimination on so many levels. But she didn't fight against it by sitting in her chair. She fought against it by doing something and changing the way we lived. And then what do you think when you see this? I think we all know who this is. What do you think when you see this? Because I think this is the greatest leader of all time. Creator. Right? What else? Savior. What else do you see?
A reminder that we all are creators, like it
Right.
will be one day as well.
Right. That we can have all that the Father hath, right? That we're all creators. What else do you see? And that's a personal question, but you see something. A listener. Yes. Right? What else do you see? I definitely see the greatest fighter of discrimination there ever was. He loved everyone the same. He loved everyone equal. He created everyone to be equal. All of those great leaders faced the most extreme discrimination, especially our Savior, Jesus Christ. Dying on the cross, being sacrificed. That's an extreme display of discrimination against his beliefs, against who he was, on all counts. But they did not allow that to stop them from finding the goodness around them. And from that goodness, they created a world that they wanted to see. And that's why we picked this picture, because he was creating the world. But all of those people, every single one of them, Harriet Tubman, Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi, Mother Teresa, all of them, they all created a world that they wanted to see. Oops, I'll go back. So what changes do you want to see? And now I want you to call out to me. What changes do you want to see? What's important to you? Call something out. Or I'm going to come down there with microphone and just put it in your face and make you talk to me. What changes do you want to see? Equality. Yeah, absolutely, equality. But there's so many levels of equality. What types of equality are we talking about? Gender equality. Yes, I agree. I want to see that too. What other things do you want to see?
More kindness.
More kindness.
Breaking down stereotypes.
Breaking down stereotypes. Amen. Religious freedom. All religions. Respect and honor for all religions.
No starvation for kids.
Yes.
Widows and other places on earth.
No starvation, period. No more hungry. There's too much food in this world and too much goodness that we should not be able to provide a way for people to have food. That's a human right, to have food. No more starvation. Absolutely. What else do you want to see? Right, positive globalization. What else? Keep calling it out. This is good stuff. What else? Do you have a mic? I'm just kidding. What else do you want to see? This side of the room, talk to me. This side. Talk to me. What do you want to see? What changes in the world do you want to see? First guy, you. I'm going to make you guys talk to me. Racism. He wants to eliminate racism. Absolutely. Do you face racism? Do you feel that you face that? Certain points in your life. And when was it the worst that you felt? In high school. Where were you in high school? In Indiana. And where are you from? From Vietnam originally. And you felt that racism. And how did that make you feel as a person? Did it make you angry? Were you hurt by it? Or were you able to turn that power into pain? I mean, that pain into power. I did not mean that. I want you to turn that power into pain. No. Or were you able to find a way to turn that pain into power for yourself? Or pain into change? Or pain into a fire in your belly that made you say, I'm going to do something about this? Right, you had to work for it. Right, exactly. But what lessons were learned in that, right? All those life lessons. And thank you for letting me put you on the spot, but it's absolutely true and we'll absolutely face it. More forgiveness. Absolutely, see people as people. Yeah, absolutely.
I also want a world where everybody education access to education.
Right.
There are lots of people who can learn and be educated in poverty and
Right. Education, again, that's a human right to be educated. It's beautiful. Absolutely. What else on this side of the room? I'm just going to make you all keep talking.
Peacemakers.
What?
Peacemakers.
Peacemakers. We need more peacemakers. That's right. Absolutely. What about the back? Go ahead.
So I was on a training video once for discrimination, because I've experienced discrimination against obesity
Right.
and also nudity. I didn't realize that there's discrimination on both sides. And I would love to see people as people.
Right. Again, people as people. Absolutely. Absolutely. The world will teach you, especially if you look at today's pop culture, it objectifies women, it objectifies wealth, it objectifies status, it objectifies your job into something of power, into something that makes you who you are. But what you don't remember, or what you fail to remember when you're objectifying a thing, is that you're more than your body. Your body is so temporary. And thank God that we're more than our bodies, because God gave us a soul. Right? You are so much more than that. So don't objectify that. And so if we objectify another person in any way, shape, or form, we change them. Right? Absolutely. Thank you. Anyone else in the back? Okay, what about this middle section? Right there. Yes.
I want to see more innovation to
Hmm.
poorer countries, and I want to stop like first world arrogance and ignorance.
Right.
Because most of the time, like I live in an orphanage, right? And we were so happy, we were so fun, we were
Mm.
so joyful. And as soon as we had people from Utah visiting us, started to use money, donation, and so
That's interesting. That's actually really interesting because I lived in an orphanage for 4 months in Ecuador. Where was your orphanage? Where are you from? Cambodia. So that's really interesting, and I think that that's a perspective that the world needs to hear, because I would never have known that. And I would encourage you to talk about it freely and openly, if you don't already, because that's something that we want to know. And especially because even if you think that's my opinion or your opinion, the world needs to know that that is your opinion and that's the experience you had, and your voice is important. And so I would encourage you to talk about those things and talk about those experiences and share that with others, because the more that we know, the more we can change. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Right. Empathy over sympathy. Right. Thank you. Anyone else in that little middle section? I haven't heard from anybody on that little table of the you two, one of you.
I would like to see, I guess, like less like political belief, like discrimination.
Political belief discrimination. Election year, you're feeling the heat. Don't discriminate against him. That's right. Don't discriminate against anyone for their beliefs. Right? Okay, what about this section right here? Right here. There's literally like 6 of you. Somebody in this section right here. How about you in the back? Better access to education, so very similar to what she said. Absolutely, right? Anybody else?
I'd like to see a heightened sense of self-awareness, kind of building off of what Becky said. It's like if we just took a minute to be mindful and internalize the reality of our situations and how we are projecting unrealistic expectations onto our peers, our relationships, we would see the double standard, and that some of those things that you find annoying, you are actually probably the one who needs to change that.
Right, exactly. Okay, now this side. There's lots of you. So we'll start in the back. One of you, what do you want to see changed in the world?
I'd like to see more courage.
More courage,
To stand up and tell
right? More courage to stand up. More Martin Luther King Jr.'s, right? More Harriet Tubmans. More thought leaders. Okay, anybody here? Okay, you, yep. No, you good? No, I don't care.
Okay, good.
I'm here all night, just kidding.
I think for me, just greater ability to know your worth.
Know your worth, right? A world that knows its worth. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, what about you? What do you want to see change? You, yeah.
Okay, so I thought about economic equality.
Equality.
So recently, the coronavirus is really serious problem in the world. But recently, I saw that youth that some like a richer class groups can provide more advancement or occasionally customizing it. But the poor class, they can sometimes they really hard to get the math. So the math is really important tool for taking take care of it. But so I thought about that kind of things happening is really unfair. So that's what we need to fix it in the future.
Right, economic equality. Right, absolutely. Absolutely. So, all of these amazing things and all these changes that everybody wants to see, what is the root of all of it? Because there's one single thread of root that runs deep. And so we could branch this tree out and we could talk forever about changes, and it will grow and it will grow and it will be this beautiful tree. But what is, when we come down to this single base trunk root, like all of this, what does that come to? The one thing that real change requires, and it all starts from within you, and it's love. Because through your love for another person, you extinguish discrimination. And it starts right here, right now with all of us. And every single person that then you're touching their life, then it ends discrimination for them. And if we all make that change, and if we all stand up for change, and we all decide that we're going to talk about change, being a thought leader takes talking about things. Because you can be a thought leader, but all in your mind, if you don't talk about it, no one will ever know. You may have a wonderful opinion and a wonderful voice. If you don't share it, the world misses your light. So it starts with you. And then the key to that is consistency. It's doing something about it. So now the question is, what will you do? What are you going to do? And then I want you to think about a call to action. So I want you to give yourself a call to action. And some of the best ways that I have found that people help end discrimination in the workplace, especially universities, workplaces, when you're in groups like this, is mentoring people, friendshipping people, sponsoring people. What happens when you mentor a person and you create a friendship with another person, especially of a different ethnicity or race or religion or gender? What happens when that friendship blooms? It changes your perspective, not the other person. It didn't change anything about them. It just changed what you thought about it. Right? So mentor someone, sponsor someone, create a different world together. I want you to really think about what your call to action is going to be. So do something. If you want to see more women in the workplace, right? Go to work to make that happen. You could start a business and hire women. You could start a business that empowers women. You could talk about it. If you want to see gender equality, that's a great way to start. And what were some of the other ones? We said more equality for economic equality. There's ways that we can start businesses to do that and grow that. There's ways that as students you can do those things. Everything we talked about, there's actually a solution to solve it. But at the stem of every one of those issues, it's love. And the love, you can't love another person if you don't love yourself. It's really hard, isn't it? You actually can't. You can't love someone else unless you love yourself. So the first thing you got to do is love yourself for exactly how God made you. Exactly. Don't ever wish to be different. It's your differences that make you amazing. It's your differences that make you great. It's your differences that make you beautiful. It's the fact that you are different that makes you unique and special. It's the fact that you're not the same that you will be seen and you will be heard. None of those people looked anything alike, and they were all great leaders. They were seen and they were heard and they did something about it. And what made them special was their differences. So my husband and I, we spent 5 years in a Spanish branch. And when we were called to serve in the Spanish branch, we had just barely moved to California. We had only been there for a few months. And I had a really traumatic experience on my mission. And I had served in the Dominican Republic, and I was raped on my mission. And so I had to be life evacuated out of my mission. And it was really traumatizing for me. And I never spoke Spanish again a day after my mission. I was like, to heck with that. That's never going to happen again. I'm done with this. Like, no way. I'm just going to forget about it as fast as possible, I thought. And I never spoke Spanish again. And then we were called to serve in a Spanish branch. And I remember looking at him and saying, no, I can't do it. I can't. I was still angry. I discriminated against anyone who spoke Spanish, anyone of Latin, anything. In my heart, it was like this feeling that was like, no way, I'm not going anywhere near it. I don't want anything to do with it. And our first Sunday, I sat there and I could hear them talking and my world was spinning and just the smell of the detergent, that was the exact detergent of what they used on my mission, and everything was coming back to me, and I was literally, my world was spinning. And every Sunday for months I would come home and I would cry and I would say, no, I'm not doing this. I quit. I'm giving up. You can go to the Spanish branch alone, but I'm not doing it. I can't. I refuse. I can't do this. It's too hard. And I would say that and I would get really, really angry. And my son, who is now 13, and he was, what's 13 minus 5, 8? He was 8 at the time. 13, he was 8. He was 8 at the time, and he comes downstairs because he heard me like basically screaming, Chris, I'm not going to do this, and I don't care anymore, and you can go by yourself, but I'm not going. I can't do this. I can't handle it. I feel like I'm going to throw up every time I'm around them. I can't do it. I hate them. I hate them. I hate everything about it. I can't do this. And my son comes down the stairs and he says to me, and I didn't know he was there. I had no idea because I was like yelling at him this way and my son came behind me and he says, Mommy, we don't have to go to the Spanish branch anymore? And it just took my breath away. And my husband's crying, and I start crying. And I said, no, Danny, no, I'm not going to give up. Go back to bed. It's okay, but no, we're going to keep going to Spanish branch. It's okay. And in that moment, I looked at my husband and I said, okay, I can do this. I have to do this. I have to do it for my son, because I'm not going to allow my son to see me quit. I'm not going to allow my son to see me hate. And I'm not going to allow my son to see me discriminate against someone because of what happened to me. And I'm definitely not going to let my son see me tell God no. Because I was downright like, no, God, I won't do this. And I wasn't going to let him see that in me anymore. And so I started to make a change, but it wasn't that anything in the Spanish branch changed. Nothing changed. It just got harder. But what happened was I changed. And I started visiting every single sister on our Relief Society roster, because I was in the Relief Society presidency. I was the first counselor. And I told my president, Hermana, I said, Hermana Alvarez, we're going to go visit every single sister. Every single sister. And I'm going to visit them, and I'm going to speak to them in Spanish. Don't translate for me. I'm going to speak to them in Spanish, and we're going to visit every single one of them until I feel comfortable. And I'm going to be in their home, and I'm going to love them, and I'm not going to stop until I love them. And we visited every single sister, and it took months. And every Sunday, my husband would have to watch the kids after church all night, basically, until I come home, because I would be out visiting and out visiting and out visiting, changing my heart from one that hated people. I hated those people. But it was because of a pain that I had experienced. It wasn't them that hurt me, but my pain came from within. So when I talk about this discrimination, it's not necessarily that I've been discriminated against so much, but it's because I have discriminated. It's because I know how painful it is to be the person who has done that to somebody, who has looked at someone and said, oh, they're not important, or we don't need to serve them, or we don't need to love them, or that's not good enough, they're not good enough. But it was when I decided that I loved every single one of them that everything changed. And I loved the Spanish branch. And the amazing thing is, it healed me. It healed all my pain, and it gave me the power to start talking about what happened to me. So I had never told anybody about my mission up until that. Never. Well, I mean, my husband was like one of the only two that knew. Besides the church, that was it. I just was silent. And it gave me power. My healing gave me power. My loving them gave me power. And then my husband was called a Spanish branch president. And it was amazing. And it healed our family, and it healed my son. And it taught him how to love God more than he loved himself, and more than if he understood the language or not, because he'd never understood Spanish. And he still went, and he loved them, and he passed sacrament to them. And it was beautiful. And that discrimination ended when it ended within me. That's when it ended. And then the most beautiful thing is then I was able to feel empowered to stand up for the branch in really powerful ways. Like when they needed a new Relief Society room, and I was the one who had to fight that battle because nobody else would listen to them. And I would show up at stake meetings and say, oh no, I'm taking that room and we're turning it into a Relief Society room whether you like it or not. And that was different for them. All of the Spanish people who had asked for that before never got it. And I refused. I'm not letting this happen anymore. Or like when our children wanted to be connected to the next primary, and we fought for that. And all the battles that we fought for them up until the very end, until they had their own sacrament meeting, until they had their own ward, until they were their own people. And us white people, they didn't need us anymore. All of them were Spanish leaders because they were now empowered. They didn't need us. That's how we left them. We left them with legacy. Now you get to go to your cultures, and you get to go to your islands and to your countries and to your states and to your places and into your communities and into your homes, and you get to do the same thing. You get to heal, and you get to teach others how to do that, and you can end discrimination, but first by ending it from within. Ending it right here. You are in the most amazing place to feel the love. You have such diversity. The only thing you should be seeing around you is equality and inclusion. Those are the only two words I want to see anymore. I hate when companies say diversity and inclusion. Stop talking about diversity. Start talking about inclusion and equity. Because we're all equal. We're all the same. And if we start believing it and talking about it, that's all you'll see. Because you see what you seek, and you seek what you find. And you find what you seek, and you seek and find and seek. And it's just a constant battle you're going to face every day. So start facing it with you. Make the world a better place as you find the light from within you and you share that with others. I know that you have the power already within you to do all of these things. It's just time. It's your time. It's your time. And I say these things. Do I end in the name of Jesus Christ? Amen. I feel like this was some sort of a church talk. If not, this was awesome. But in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.